I appreciate your patience as we work on some technological stuff on our side. And now I want to call to order the 6th General Session of the 57th General Assembly of the Unitarian Universalist Association. And I invite Tanner to come on up and offer us some opening words.
So I found a reading about hope. But I'm realizing as I walked up here that I don't want to read this about hope. I want to talk about intention and the way we do our work together. I want to call us into this space, realizing that we are one faith, one movement, and we can do this together, but not separately. And I want us to be intentional with the work that we're doing.
Thank you, Tanner. We've got some business before us, and I want to remind us of our rules as we move forward. You must be recognized by someone at this podium in order to speak at one of our microphones. When you're speaking at a microphone, you've got 2 minutes, and you can only speak once unless there's no other person waiting to speak. We're running a little behind, which is fine. We've made some adjustments, and let's be mindful that if we want to take a break between this session and the next one to grab food, it will be important that those who are speaking at the pro and concern mics work to give new information and not repeat information or viewpoints that have been shared before. We share our perspectives based on our voting, so we don't need to be reiterating our points multiple times. We will continue to have 3 minutes of informal discussion before each debate. A reminder that amendments must have been submitted for consideration at the appropriate mini-assembly, and that there are 30 minutes total allowed for bylaw and rule amendments, resolutions, or actions. After 15 minutes of debate, motions to table or refer are in order, and those motions must come from our procedural mic. A motion to call the previous question is in order once 7 minutes has expired and there are people at the pro and con mic. Once 5 minutes has expired and no one is at the pro or con mic, then the motion to call the previous question would be in order. A gentle reminder that delegates can suspend the rules at any time by going to the procedural mic. And as always, we remember that we have online delegates who are joining us, and we'll be taking the time to make sure that we include them in our deliberations here and pausing when we take our votes to make sure we count their votes. With that, let us address our remaining bylaw change that has been proposed or is about to be proposed. Manish?
Good morning, General Assembly. I recognize the trustee at the pro mic. I recognize the trustee at the pro mic.
Yes, I'm Dick Jackie, a member of the Board of Trustees, and I move that the proposed bylaw amendment to alter the social witness process and which communities can participate in this process in bylaw Article 4, Sections 4.12 and 4.16, and as amended in the mini-assembly found on pages 80 to 83 of the final agenda be adopted.
The motion to adopt the proposed bylaw amendment to substantially alter the social witness process in which communities can participate in this process related to bylaw Article 4, Sections 4.12 and 4.16 has been made and seconded. We call on the trustee Dick Jackie to make the board's statement in support of this bylaw amendment.
These amendments come from the Commission on Social Witness and the Bylaws Review Task Force after years of deliberation. The social witness process has seen many changes over the decades. Increases in the speed of communication, as well as our understanding of who joins together in Unitarian Universalist communities, has changed the way we do the work of expanding justice in the world. The proposed amendments allow us to respond more urgently to justice issues in our world. These amendments also expand the circle of Unitarian Universalists in covenant who can study and take action on justice issues. Similarly, these changes continue our process of clarifying what information is essential to include in the bylaws and what can be included elsewhere to provide the flexibility needed to empowered leaders that the General Assembly elects. The other way of saying this is that we want to remove rules, processes, and procedures from the bylaws and instead include them in the rules and CSW process guide that is released every year. Your board strongly supports these changes to our formal justice-making process.
Thank you. Now it's the time where we're moving to discussion, but we have a procedural question. Yes.
Hi, Eric Valpy, University Unitarian Church in Seattle. I'm afraid that this is a departure from the motion on the floor, but it is a point of information about the online location where the body can review the actions of an immediate witness and the text.
We asked the commissioner from the Commission on Social Witness to answer that question.
Susan Geckler, representing the Commission on Social Witness. The CSW alert, which includes the text, was emailed this morning to delegates. It's my understanding it goes to delegates. So you should have received an email with that, with the download of a PDF. It is available also at uua.org/ga/offsite/2018/business/VII and www.uua.org/ga/offsite/2018/business/CSW-alerts.
So we all got that, right?
So
Susan, I'm going to ask you to go over to the tech deck,
yeah.
and so they can create a slide to put up at the end of this current discussion.
Well, and there are some paper copies in the back, and there will be some more paper copies before the 1:30 session.
All right, thank you. So now is the time when we move into discussion, not on that, but on the amendment, the proposed bylaw amendment to change the social witness timeline. So I invite you for 2 minutes to talk to the folks around you, form small groups, and discuss how does this amendment help move us towards a greater social justice process at GA.
All right. You ready to debate this? I see. I recognize a delegate at the pro mic.
Susan Geckler, delegate from the Unitarian Universalists of Southern Delaware. I'm speaking also as chair of the Commission on Social Witness. I want to say that we support these changes, believe that they are consistent with some of the debate that went on earlier with the linkages proposal, where it talked about what is appropriate in bylaws and what should be in rules of procedure or other places. The level of detail that is in the current bylaws is, we feel, sort of inappropriate for a bylaw. So what we are proposing in the first section changes section 4.12. It does not change any processes. It just takes out the details of dates and numbers and that type of thing. And all that information is in the proposer's guide, so the information in terms of rules of procedure would still be there. For the section on the section 4.16 on additions to the agenda of the regular General's Assembly, one change is taking out what's not relevant, that there wouldn't be no actions of immediate witness prior to 2018, since we're past that. And then the other change is taking out the details of that petitions have to be signed by 150 delegates, 25 congregations, if 6 petitions are submitted, So it allows more flexibility. It allows it, by taking this out, we can be more responsive to our off-site delegates. We can perhaps find other ways that we can engage people in these. It doesn't mean we can't ask for petition signing. It just means that it's not required in the bylaws to have that. So it gives flexibility to perhaps move into a more modern and technological era.
Thank you. So I don't see anyone at any of our microphones, which is okay. Don't feel like you have to fill the space unless you're moved to. Can I get a sense of the hall? Are we ready to vote on this as proposed? Anyone feel strongly not to? Just checking. So I'm going to have us vote. All in favor of the motion as presented, please raise your delegate cards or click online. Go ahead and put your cards down. Anyone opposed? Raise your cards or click online. All right. Any abstentions? All right, go ahead and put your cards down. We're going to wait just a moment while we get our online votes tallied up here. Yeah, they can see it up there. Motion passes. Thank you. So I'd just like to say, I think that might be the fastest piece of business I've ever seen happen. I neglected to tell you this morning that we made a couple of changes to the agenda. These are changes that we had announced yesterday would happen. Next up on this morning's agenda will be the elections for officers, and then we'll move into our discussion of yesterday afternoon sessions. We'll have a process observation, closing reading, and we'll kind of be back on track at that point. Oh, a procedural question, please.
I'm Robert Strong from the First Unitarian Church of San Jose, California. And my question is, well, my concern is procedure. Although you display the percentage of our off-site votes, we have no idea how many people are involved in the offsite vote. I would like that information.
Sure, and that will be presented as part of the final credentials report at the end of the assembly. We can give you the rough number that we presented at the beginning of the assembly.
I'm asking, on a particular vote, we get
Oh, okay.
percentages, but we don't get
Gotcha.
numbers.
Gotcha, I misunderstood your question. Give me a sec, please.
It's on the screen.
It was on the screen. Go ahead, Chris.
In the upper right-hand corner, whenever there's an offside vote, there's a number of people who are voting. So if you look in the upper right-hand corner, it's a rectangular white box, and it usually says around 100, which is really nice for doing the percentages.
So look at that, we both learned something today. The other thing that I've learned is that once we clear the vote in preparation for the next one, that number disappears. So we can't give you the number of the last vote, but we'll trust that some of you out there noticed what the number was.
I think I'm up. It feels like it. All right, so we are going to do the elections. You all had the opportunity at the candidates forum yesterday at 1:30 to meet those who are standing for election. All of these positions are uncontested seats, which means that we don't actually do a yes, no, abstention, because really we could vote on them. They're a slate. We could get one person to say yes, and they are in. However, the folks that are standing for the folks that are in our elections are putting themselves up for a substantial amount of work. It's work that is at times satisfying, frustrating, and equal parts joy and sorrow and frustration. So I'd really like to give us them a real affirmation of the work that they're going to commit to. They will be installed later on this afternoon after you elect them, but let's make sure that when we do this, we really give them the affirmation of the service. So I'm going to name what the positions are. For the Board of Trustees, we have 4 open seats. Board of Trustees positions are 3-year terms. We have Patrick McLaughlin, Tim Atkins, Greg Boyd, and new to the trustee table is Latifah Woodhouse. For our nominating committee, we have 3 open seats for 3-year terms. We have Joe Cherry, Aisha Hauser, and Sana Saeed. For the moderator, we have a special election to fill the remainder of the term vacated by Jim Key. We are going to elect Mr. Barb Grieve to a 1-year term. A lot of folks, and then in 2019, we have the regularly scheduled election for the next 6-year term moderator. A lot of folks were a little bit confused by that. If you go to UUA.org and you type into the search box moderator election, that will help explain a little bit how the board structured this. We're trying to do new models of ministry and leadership, and the co-moderation is part of that. However, our bylaws haven't caught up with us, right? So yesterday, we decided to go ahead and add the term moderators, the parentheses S, into the bylaws to allow us for co-moderators in the future. That's a 2-year vote. We'll need to vote on that again next year. So for the purposes of fulfilling the bylaws, we will be electing Mr. Barb Grieve to that position. However, the board has already appointed Alandria Williams to the co-moderator position for 2 years back in August. So she will continue to serve in that capacity. So let's be clear, right? Yeah, right on. So while we're electing the one co-moderator, it continues to be the co-mods. Does that make clear? Nah? Yep. Ah, excellent. I love it when that happens. I recognize the delegate at the procedure mic.
Good morning. I'm Michael Walker. I serve our congregation in Auburn, California. I'm also a member of the UUA nominating committee. Just a point of information. Yes, the board terms are 3 years, but one of the nominees is serving out someone else's term. So Latifah Woodhouse's term is 1 year, and she can be renominated next year.
I take that as a point of information, and as you serve on that committee, I take that as it was my understanding that it was a 3-year term. All right, we ready, folks? Oh, one more off-site. Yes, procedure.
Dave Michael, East Shore Unitarian Universalist Church in Kirtland, Ohio. Are all the nominations committee up for election, ministers or not?
They are not. Oh, somebody making their way to the procedure mic. I recognize the delegate at the procedure mic.
Joan Peterson, lay delegate, First Unitarian Society of Chicago. Is it possible to display the names on the display? They whipped past on 2 lines quickly, and I didn't catch all the names. I'd like to be an informed voter.
Sure. They also appear, I believe, in your program book. They are on the UUA.org website, but I will read them again. It is not possible to have them up on the screen other than the closed caption. So I will say those again, absolutely.
Okay, and just as a note, for those of us who maxed out our use of the website on day 2 and who didn't pick up a program book, can somebody tell us which page on the digital one to turn to? I couldn't look, and I looked and I couldn't find it.
If while I'm reading that, somebody can do, I'm reading these names, somebody can do that, we will absolutely do that. And I will ensure, my job as secretary, that we have a slide next year. So one more time, for the Board of Trustees, 3-year terms, Patrick McLaughlin, Tim Atkins, Greg Boyd, and as corrected, 1 year, Latifah Woodhouse. Nominating committee, 3-year terms, Joe Cherry, Aisha Hauser, Sana Saeed. And for the moderator's special election, 1-year term, Mr. Barb Grieve, who happens to be here to say something.
Thank you, Chris. To answer the question about where to find it on the app, if you go to information and scroll down to E for election, you'll find all of the information there.
Thank you. And it is page 3 of the program book. Thank you. I love our board. And at the procedure mic.
Hi, my name is Donna Stinson. I'm from the Unitarian Universalist Church in Meriden, Connecticut. And I believe we passed that we are having 2 youth or young adult Board of Trustees meeting. I just wondered, as a point of information, when those positions will be voted on, or will be the interim between now and Spokane.
Sure. So that is also a 2-year process. So we voted on it this year. We will need to affirm it again next year. And then at the close of General Assembly next year, we will be able to have full youth trustees. Now, are we good to go? Yes? Yes, I'm feeling yes. All right. So again, in that spirit of affirmation of these folks for the time and talent and treasure that they will be performing for on behalf of our faith, can I get a yay? And offsite, I invite you to say yay wherever you are. And I hope those who have been elected feel the love, and we will be installing you later. Can we get the word cloud slide on the deck?
Hey, everybody.
I think you're starting us off, yes? I want to introduce.
Sure. All righty. So yesterday, for some of you who participated in the conversations, thank you so much. So I'm going to say 2 things. So I've been a U a very long time, And one of the things that I appreciated about youth work and young adult work was that we actually had deep conversations with each other. We had deep dialogue. We may not have always agreed, but we built very deep relationships. The only way to actually be in a covenantal faith is to actually do discernment together. Does that make sense? Otherwise, you're not in covenant if you don't communicate. You just go somewhere, you sit there, you look at them, you do this, you get up, and you go home. That's not what covenantal means. And so one thing that I recognize while here, because I'm in deep discernment about what it means to be on this stage, is that I went to this thing in 2005 called Opus and Concentric. And I looked around and was like, oh, half of Opus and Concentric is in the building. And while we were dealing with a whole bunch of stuff around who we want to be as a young adult ministry, what it meant to do radically inclusive, spiritually alive, and justice-centered work, we did deep, very painful, sometimes very late nights work in which we talked to everybody present, which meant we built relationships even in the midst of struggle. Sometimes in our adult communities, we do not do the same thing. So while we were doing it in our youth work and in our young adult work sometimes, we were not always doing the same work within our adult communities. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say? And so because of it, we are now dealing with the impacts of having to figure out how do we build collectively where we're trying to go to where we're actually in relationships, where we're listening to each other for real, and at every step of the way moving forward. And so that's what this process is about, to go, how do we reimagine our bylaws, our mission? I was in a session, people said we don't have a mission, we do. But if you don't know it, that means we got work to do, right? And so that's what this is about, to figure out how we are all working alongside each other. No, I'm sorry, see, that was ableist. How we are moving alongside each other to make it happen. And we all messed up because I just used ableist language, and I apologize.
Isn't Missouri the show me state? Do I have that right? So after the breakout sessions yesterday, we were like, yeah, show me what people said. So for some of us, myself included, be a visual representation of what we heard from all of the breakout groups is the easiest way to get something out of the collective voice. So since we're in the show me state, we're gonna show you via the word cloud some of the major themes that came out of our 19 discussion groups yesterday. There was lots and lots of feedback, and it was amazing to see how many of the groups had similar thoughts and ideas that are represented in these words. It was also amazing to see the diversity of thought. There was a concentration of themes, and then there were some radical ideas, some radical words, some radical suggestions of ways to move together, to be together, that came out of those discussion groups. And I want to thank all of you for bringing your full selves to that conversation. I'm going to hand it over to Christina in just a second, who's going to go in a little deeper. But thank you, thank you, thank you for those of you who attended. And Kimberly and Eric, thank you for staying up until dawn to put all of this together for us. So thanks for that. And Christina, we'll give you some detail.
So we had, what did we say, 19? Yep. We had 19 breakouts sessions. We had about 600 to 700 of you all participate in these conversations. So, right, yeah, yay on you all for hanging out. And one of the things, to what Alandria said, and also to kind of feedback to what Carrie McDonald was saying yesterday, is these are skills that we're not always adept at in our congregations, right? Talking to each other within covenant, having difficult conversations, hearing voices from the margins. So this is something that we're going to need to practice so that we get better at these skills. So you're going to hear and see more of these types of practices from your Board of Trustees in the coming years, particularly when we get to Spokane next year. So be prepared for more conversation. It's really important that when we are in community, can you bring back up the word cloud? Because you'll see community is the largest word there. When we are in community, that doesn't mean that we're just sitting together looking at a screen. It means that we are in relationship with each other and talking with one another. So we're going to be doing more of that in the coming years. The other thing I wanted to say is that within our conversations, there's always conversations about the board doing linkage work. And you heard yesterday one of the proposal bylaw changes was really specifically about how to engage with the board. And we take that really seriously, and we're going to be talking about that this year. But I want to point out that what we did yesterday is linkage work. You are all part of our sources of authority and accountability. And us having these kinds of discussion sessions with you is very intentional linkage work. The other thing I'm going to say real briefly, and if we can pull, I'm sorry, Tech Deck, I know I should have just had you keep it up there. If you pull the word cloud back up, the other thing I want to mention about word clouds, because I think some of your congregations use these as well, is to look at the words on the margins, right? Because we see themes come in the center: community, work, principle, people, action, faith. And that's important to look at, see what those common themes are. But as Denise was saying, if we're really doing our job and listening and thinking about communities on the margins, then we're looking at the words on the margins as well. So we're looking at words like survivor and perspective and understanding and allies and barriers and beliefs and compassion. Those are the words that were on the margins, some of the words that were on the margins. So I really invite you, when you're doing this type of discernment and discussion work in your congregations, to make sure that you're paying attention to that as well. Anything I missed? Thanks. What's that? I wasn't.
Oh, yeah, let's do it. We got time. What time?
We are 11:50. End of session is 12 or 12:30?
Great. Okay, so, where's Tim? Come. Barb, come. So we just want to say one more thing before we recess and close. So this is going to be hard to say because it's just hard. So we are all in different spaces, but the thing we want to be able to do is to treat each other respectfully, right? So there's someone named Sky, who I want to give an apology to. One thing we wanted to do was to figure out how we shift, how we are able to speak in general session. And so we were hoping we could figure out how for people to speak that aren't delegates. But then we were like, oh, we can't do that. And so I just want to say, Sky, we apologize, because we said to Sky that they would be able to speak, and then we said that they couldn't.
And we forgot to go back to Sky. We forgot to go back to Sky and say, here's the struggle that we've experienced, and we were wrong.
Right. And so we wanted to publicly say we were sorry. Two, there are people who have felt hurt this GA by the process, and we just want to say sorry for that. And some of it is on us, some of it is the fact that we have a process that's complicated, and to hold both of those things as truths. And people are doing heroic volunteer work, and can we not yell at them? Like, can we please not yell at them? I know I've been yelled at. I've yelled at people before. One of our commission members was yelled at. Can we just really try to come at each other in respectful, loving ways, knowing that we're all in this struggle together, and like we are all operating out of hurt and pain and frustration, but how we can do that faithfully is really what we're called to do at this time. Oh, you do.
Okay. On that note, I'd like to invite Tim to offer us our closing reading for this session.
Our closing words for the session are adapted from Reverend Naomi King. We are a rainbow people. The rainbow is an arc of light brilliantly displaying all the colors of the visible spectrum, all the colors that combine to make the astounding beauty of our world, all the colors that combine to reflect the astounding diversity of human expression. We are red people who respect others. We are orange people who offer faith and kind treatment. We are yellow people yearning for learning. We are green people who grow in our search for truth and meaning. We are blue people who believe in what we are achieving. We are indigo people insisting on freedom, love, and peace. We are violet people valuing the web that does not cease and we did not create. Unitarian Universalism shows up refracted through thousands of different human expressions and experiences, through individuals living our promises, through covenanted communities, through our associations and our actions. We are a rainbow people. Together, what we give heals and transforms our world. This is our covenant, our bridge to heaven, our dream and our reality. The flame of the chalice lit around the world is the source of light and the pot of gold at the end of that rainbow. The flame of that chalice is filled with the light we bring and nurtured by our hopes and dreams. We know the rainbow begins with you and with me. We are a rainbow people. Let us grow the rainbow again today.
There being no further business to come before us, and in accordance with the schedule set forth in your program book, I declare that this general session of the General Assembly shall stand in recess until 1:30 p.m. this afternoon.